Yo, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome back to another edition of the Roundtable Talk. I am your host, C Money, and in today's episode, I want to talk a little bit about the rise and fall of the shopping malls. I know I did several videos at different mall locations. I did 163rd here in South Florida. I did Pembroke Lakes Mall. I did the gallery at Warner Robins. I did several shopping malls throughout different areas, and I've been seeing posts on different social medias about about shopping malls, the ups and downs and things like that. And I've been seeing different posts, and I've been like, maybe I just need to do an all-out coverage of those shopping malls versus from then versus now, because a lot of you are probably wondering, what's going on with the malls? What's up with the malls? Why the malls are changing? I recently seen a post, and this was actually yesterday from me recording this video, about a person was doing a um, review of Pembroke Lakes Mall, and I did a review of Pembroke Lakes Mall. I did one a few years ago, and I did one recently when I did the video of round one. And I didn't do a full video of the mall with round one. I just did like a video of the area, and I did a I remember I did an episode about the food courts in the shopping malls. But and when I saw the post, and I was like, I didn't realize, because I recently went to round one and I played some games at round one, and I was like, I really didn't realize how bad the mall was. And that prompted me to say, let me start talking about it, because we remember a while back I did a video of 163rd Street Mall, and I told you that the mall has went downhill. And I don't know if I explained explained it, but ever since Walmart came onto the scene of they building a Walmart inside of the parking lot of the mall, it's begun that the mall has became slowly declining. Now recently I went to the mall a few couple of weeks ago, and when I tell you, there is nothing, even the place where I get my belts called Family Belt, they not even there no more. And there isn't a bathroom inside the mall. The area where the bathroom is at, they have a wall that's blocking the area. And I was like, are you serious? Like, literally, the mall has gone down here. And it prompted me to say, let me start doing the rise and fall of the mall. Because remember back in the day, the mall was the hot spot. Remember, if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, with your, as a kid, and a lot of us can relate to this, like you millennials and you modern day kids, you're not going to relate to this. Remember when you got out of school, you had $5. You took those $5, you went to the mall, got you $5 worth of quarters, and you went to the arcade inside of the mall, and you always played one of your favorite games. You will battle your friends in a game of Street Fighter, whether you are E Honda and they Chun Li, or whether they are, Ryu versus Blanca, or you found somebody who was already playing a video game out there and you challenged a stranger to a battle of Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, and you will try to defeat them at beating the game. And I remember one time, and wasn't a while back. This was recently. I was in my adulthood. I ended up playing a game with somebody with the game of Simpsons. Simpsons has an arcade game, and I ended up playing with them the arcade game. And there was one character, I was the other, because I normally play Bart in the game, so we both played the Simpsons together. But going back to what I was saying, you take $5, you go get a because $5 back then in the arcade was all you needed for arcade, because you get $5 worth of game, worth of quarters or tokens depending on where you went, because most arcades had tokens, and you took them tokens and it only cost you one token or one quarter for each game, and you played the games, and you was hanging out with your friends. And after you leave the arcade, you go to the food court. You and your friends buy you some $5 combo at the food court. Y'all sit there and talk about the girls and the boys. The girls sat up there and talk about the hot boys at school. The boys talk about the girls, and you hung out with your friends, and then afterwards you went home. Now these days, and remember I did a video about this, how they done took the essence of the mall. Because back then, the arcades was the biggest deal in the mall. They're bringing the arcades back, but it's never going to be the same as the arcades from the 80s and the 90s. Because now these arcades, they're different. First off, the arcades now, everything is digital. Everything is on cards now. You now have arcade cards and, things like that. Arcade Odyssey, which is one of my favorite locations I did a video on. Go check it out in hotspots in South Florida. Recently just started using cards because when I first started going there about 2-3 years ago, they was using tokens, and you had to put like 3 or 4 tokens and stuff. Now they're using cards, and now everything is basically digital. You get a card, you either have to swipe the card or you tap the card. It's no more tokens and stuff. If you go to an arcade that still do tokens and quarters, you're in luck. You're in a nostalgic world. You're in a world of old school, because you still are in that phase of put the quarter in, play. But I know it's not the same as it was in the 90s. You're living halfway through because they're still doing quarters, but I'm quite sure it's going to take you 4 or 5 quarters or 4 or 5 tokens just to play one game. Back then, it only took us 1 quarter for each game, and we played. Now it's 3 quarters for the not so popular games, 4 or 5 quarters for the popular games, and if you're playing like a bigger game, you're doing like it's 2 or 3 quarters for the regular games. Like you're paying like 2 quarters for maybe Pac-Man, but you're and Mrs. Pac-Man or whatever. But you're paying 4 or 5 quarters if you're doing Mario Kart, racing with other people and stuff. So it's like that. So basically, but now they have cards and everything. Well, now you have to add $10 to get you 100 credits or 200 credits depending on the location, and then those credits you're paying like 30 credits, 40 credits per game, and it's the same as tickets. It's the same as tokens. Instead of paying, tokens, you're using a card. So it's a lot different. And with the malls, like I said, back then you got the quarters, you went to the mall, you hung out at the arcade, then you went to the food court. Then it was like, oh, 5, 6 o'clock, I gotta get home, because you had to be home before the street lights came. And then you went home, and then you did your homework. You ate at the house, if anything, and it was a deal back then. Now these days, kids don't even go to the mall no more. And you'll be lucky enough if you get a mall. Like a lot of these malls are not centered around high schools. Like Aventura Mall, there isn't a high school that's within reach. The only high school in South Florida that I knew that was close to a mall was North Miami Beach Senior High School, because it was literally across the street from the mall. And I don't know if I ever did a video of it. Maybe one day I'm gonna go and I'm gonna show you a short video of it. How literally you could you could get out of the school, walk across the street, and you're at 163rd Street Mall. Because back then, the kids used to hang out in that mall like nothing. The kids was hanging out in that mall. Now, the kids don't even hang out in that mall. Like, it's nothing. So, and remember I told you in previous episodes, there was 3 malls that I hung out at, because I was originally from the Opelika area, Opelika, Florida. I either hung out at Westland Mall, which was the mall in Hialeah, which I did a video of. I either hung out at 163rd Street Mall, which was the video I also did of. And if I was really interesting enough, or in reality terms bougie enough to go, I ended up at Aventura, because like I said, there was a bus that took you, from Opelika to 163rd and Aventura, and the kids used to go and hang out there and stuff like that. But they're not. A lot of these malls are not centered around high schools. If you have a high school that is within walking distance of a mall, just comment and let me know. Even if it's not here in South Florida, if you're in another city and you say, hey, there's a mall that's a 5-minute walk from my kid's high school, or high school I used to go to, it's 5-minute walk from the mall. So a lot of these kids, they go and hang out at these malls, and most of the time you had to get on the bus, just like I did a video a while back, a couple of months ago, about my old high school, Hialeah Miami Lakes Senior High School. The closest mall to that would be Westland Mall. So, in driving theory, it's less than a 10-minute drive. Probably even a 5-minute drive, less than a 5-minute drive. I would say maybe a 5-minute drive from my high school to the mall. Now, getting to the mall from there, you had two options. You either took two buses or you took one. Because there was a bus, if you walk further east of Highland Miami Lakes, there was a bus and it was called Route 29. It actually took you to Westland Mall. But if you wanted to not to walk, you walked out across the street from the school. You caught the bus, which at the time was called Route 73. You get off at an intersection, which is 103rd and 67th Avenue, but in Hialeah it is called West 12th Avenue and West 49th Street. And then you transfer over to the Route 33, which would take you as well in front of the bus, but in front of the mall. But mainly the kids took, the 29. You walk a couple of like 3 or 4 blocks down, you jump on the 29 and you do stuff like that. But we're not here to talk about bus routes or whatever. But yeah, but a lot of kids, this was what they childhood was about. And now a lot of kids, they don't even go to arcades no more. They sit inside these. They're at home on their gaming consoles or their computers, and they're playing Call of Duty and Fortnite and a lot of these other games, to where you're like, you don't know how lucky you are. When we had to challenge somebody in a game, whether if it's Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, whatever, anything, we had to actually go to an arcade and challenge them at the arcade. We said on the phone, yeah, I bet I could beat you in Street Fighter. Yeah, I bet I could beat you in this. Yeah, I bet I beat you in Mortal Kombat. I could beat you in this. Back then, if they had Call of Duty, if you was playing to get somebody, yeah, let's go meet up at 7th Street Arcade and let me beat you in a game of Call of Duty. You would have to plan on meeting at the arcade to actually play against them in the game. And it's not like how you could just turn on your gaming console, turn on your Wi-Fi, and then now you can play with people, all of them, because my nephew even said he done met people. You can play with different people, and it's a new way of meeting people. Because remember back then when you wanted to play against somebody you didn't know, you went to the mall and you went to the arcade and you see somebody playing your favorite game and you was like, you want to challenge me? And you did this. You put the quarter on the arcade game and you was like, let's do this. Put in that corner and you start battling with somebody, and then bam, you may or may not have made a new friend. And you'll be like, oh, I'm going to catch you at the arcade again and I'm going to whoop that behind. You made a friend. You interacted with these people. Now these days, people online, hey man, what's up with you? I got you or whatever. And then they start having conversations, and then you make a friend that you're in Miami and they way in California, but you having a conversation with somebody that you would probably never meet, because who's to say you're going to visit California? Who's to say they're going to visit Miami? And you just found your gaming friend that you don't even know. You probably don't even know their. I don't know how online gaming does, because I've never did it. I'm more of a nostalgic, where I'm more of a retro type gamer. I don't have this Wi-Fi and online gaming where they be playing against people. I don't do all that. I'm an original person. I like to go to arcades. You see my videos, but at the same time, they don't even get to meet this person. They just have, oh, I'm online right now. Get online. I can play with you and stuff like that. And y'all have a online gaming friend, and that's what I call it. And I'm like, that ain't how it used to be back then. Back then, we was them people that we had gaming friends, but it was that person, you met them at the mall. You seen them playing Street Fighter, and you was like, man, you got Blanca, but my dog E Honda can take you out. Oh yeah, let's fight. And then that's what happens. And then you two fight against each other. And then it always used to be, and I'm saying all the time, you'll have 3 or 4 people behind you, yeah, rooting y'all on like y'all in the actual boxing or battle match. You have your friends and probably his friends on there amping you up and things like that, because it was a feeling. It was an adventure. It was a feeling to you know get that type of vibe. That was our vibe back then. Now kids today, their vibe is, Mom, leave me alone. I'm playing game with my friends. And your friends ain't even in the room. Remember back in the day when you got out of high school? Yo, y'all wanna come over my house and play some Nintendo? Yeah, let's go over your house. Oh, y'all wanna come over my house and play some games? Yeah, let's go over your house. You had that one friend that had all the games, and the kids used to go out and hang out at their place, because most of the guys back then, like myself, we didn't always have a gaming console in my house. So for me, even though I didn't really go over to people's houses like that, because I was mostly a homebody, but you always had that one kid that had all the games, because their parents was wealthy enough to afford these games. Because back then, games, even if a game costed $50, it was still considered too much money, because back then games was like $50 and stuff like that, and you like, man, if you got a $50 game, you got it, because my mama can't afford a $50 game. Now the games are like $500-$600, and I'm like, whoo. And the games are just fake, because remember back then a gaming console cost you no more than $100, and then the games was like $25-$30 at the most. Now the gaming console is $300-$400, and the game is damn near $100. You paying $50-$60 for a damn near game, and then by the time you press on taxes and stuff, you paying almost $100. And I'm like, woo. And so, and you was lucky back then to have all the games. And kids, let's go over to my house, and then y'all warm up some snacks, and then you be, yo, it's my turn, and y'all be fighting over who turn it is or who turn it is, and then people be fighting, no man, I won, so you got to play the winner, the loser got to get out and stuff like that. So it was like a vibe. Now these days, you don't even have to be in the same room. Yo man, I'm finna get on Call of Duty, get on with me so we can start playing. You get on it, you playing, your friend, even so, your friend can move away and say, "Man, my family moving to New York." Don't worry, we can still play online. You get online, you talking with your friend and communicate. Y'all could be playing. You in Miami, he in New York, and y'all playing online, and y'all still communicate. I mean, I get different types of technology, and I approve of different technology. But the vibe you got from back then is never gonna be the same as it is today. You was right there with your homeboy playing the video game. Cause now these days people think, oh, a group of men playing video games in a house, that sounds suspect. That sounds like they are there playing with each other and stuff like that. They be thinking now, cause back then you gotta have 5 or 6 niggas in your house playing one gaming console, and it was called a vibe. Now you have 5 or 6 guys in your house playing a gaming console. Somebody, that's gay. That's gay. That's some homo type mess. And I'll be like, dude, this is what we used to do back in the day. 5 of your friends, whether if it's all guys, all females, or whatever, 5 of your friends, they come over to your house, you got some snacks, they playing the game, you only had 2 controllers, so you can only play one at a time. The winner gets the loser gotta give up they controller, and the winner gets to play whoever, whatever, and they was going against each other. And sometimes they made bets, out of it. And it was a vibe. Now everybody feel, nah, I ain't gonna be in a room with 5 niggas playing no game. That sound kind of suspect. That sound like some gay junk or whatever. No, that's how we used to do back in the day. It wasn't all about a bunch of guys in the room and then everybody thinking otherwise. No, we vibed back then. You had chips and the little pizza rolls, some dip, some juice, some sodas. Your mama had, them chips, the box of chips with the variety packs in it. It was a vibe. Now people, they don't vibe like that. Oh yeah, get online. I'm gonna play you from it. I've had coworkers that'll tell you, oh, I be online playing Call of Duty, or I be online playing this and that. Or I've seen coworkers, yeah, I seen you get online to play this and this and this because you online. And I'm like, yeah. At that time, where is the old school vibe? Nobody never says, let's have a gaming party where y'all come over to my house, we got chips and sodas and things like that, and we do gaming. Now what I'm starting to see, and it's a new trend, they have gaming trucks. You know how they like that, how they have food trucks, and so they have gaming trucks now where if your kid is having a party, you can rent out a truck that has like a gaming systems in it, whether it's modern day games or retro games, and I've seen that, and I'm like, that is a good idea, that is the good idea. But with that idea, let's bring back some of the old games. If you're gonna have a gaming truck, have a Sega Genesis, have a regular Nintendo or Super Nintendo. Don't just have modern day games, because to me, a lot of these kids now these days, they don't understand the concept of back then. They don't understand how better life was. You went to the shopping malls back then. You didn't have money to go inside the stores, but you had money to go and get you some quarters at that game room. Because remember when your whole family went to the mall? The malls was sectioned out into different sections. The mothers went to the clothing stores to go shopping for clothes and things like that. Whether you going to a Sears or a J.C. Penney's, back then it was Bird Eyes, Macy's, whatever. The kids, get them $5. They go into the arcade. Unless you buy some school clothes for your kids, here kids, here's $5. Go play games at the arcade. The dads, they at the food court drinking beer. Cause Eddie Griffin said it in one of his comedy specials. The men, they at the food court drinking beer. And it was like, it was split up into sections. The moms went shopping, the kids went to the arcade, the daddies went to the food court and had a beer, and everybody was happy. The kids didn't want to sit there all day at mommy shopping for dresses and shoes and stuff, unless you was buying them some shoes. And if you was, the kids was not happy, because where the kids used to go get their shoes from back in the day? Payless. And a lot of kids, and back then it was hard, because back then we used to call Payless shoes Bobos. If you don't know what Bobos is, ask your mama, ask your older brothers and sisters. Bobos was our way of saying you had off-name brand shoes, and we used to call them Bobos. Now we just call them, off-brand. I sometimes wear off-brand shoes and stuff like that, because hey, those are good too. Even though name brand shoes last a couple of months longer than off-brand shoes, but who got $200? And I did this episode before. Who got $200 to spend on shoes? That's why I say back then it was a vibe when you went to the mall. It was a vibe when you went to these places and did these things, because it basically gave you an understanding of life. Kids used to play outside till the lights come on. The TV had to remind you of where you of 10 p.m. Do you know where your kids are? But kids now these days, they don't even go outside to play. Remember when you went outside to play touch football? Oh my God! I mean, I've never played it, but it was a thing. Remember when the kids used to play football in the streets, and they used to hurt their knee, because remember, in the streets you had concrete. So if you injured yourself, you come in, mommy, I scraped my knee. Oh, I'm gonna put a band-aid. You go on back outside and play. Remember, you used to go into the parks, and the open field used to be the football area for the kids to play football. Nah, they don't even do that. Remember on Saturdays, the kids used to go to the park, and they'll go hang out at the playground in the park, and they'll go play as a kid. And then when you get a teenager, you go play basketball, or you go play tag football. And remember you used to have them little things, them little belts with the little tags on it, and y'all play tag football and everything. Nah, they don't even do that no more. If your kid is playing football, he's either in pee-wee football or he's in football in high school. They don't play football like they used to do back in the day. Oh, me and my homies finna go to the park and play football. Or we finna go play tag football. Or we finna go play basketball in the no. If it's a thing, and that's why I say, the shopping malls have changed differently. Go to and I've seen a lot of people say this on posts, and I'm saying it too. Support your shopping malls, because a lot of these shopping malls are going down here, and they are closing shopping malls. Remember, I did a video of Sunset Place, and I showed you how Sunset Place looked at night. There was barely anything in Sunset Place. The only thing that's keeping Sunset Place open is the movie theater and the Game Time arcade place that's there. And everything else is like there's nothing really there. You have a music school there, you have an acting school there, you have a few office buildings, but there's nothing there. And a lot of people wondering why is these malls going down here? It's because people don't support the malls like how they used to. Remember, online shopping has become a new popular thing out here. Online, you know, and then not only that, why go to 3 or 4 different places when you can go to Walmart and they have everything? You used to have to go. Oh, excuse me. You used to have to go to these certain places to do things. You had to go to Payless Shoe Store to buy your shoes. You had to go to this place to buy your clothes, this place to buy your groceries. Now you going inside of these, you go in Walmart. You can buy your shoes from Walmart. You can buy your clothes from Walmart. You can buy your groceries from Walmart. You can buy your personal products from Walmart, and it's basically everything in one spot. So my understanding is, where is the love? Where is the thing? Where is the vibe behind all of this? Because the malls are going down here. Like, and I've said this to several people as well. I say the mall is more of a tourist attraction now, because a lot of people that come into towns, they go to the malls, are tourists. The malls are not for us anymore. You go into these malls now, you got Saks Fifth Avenue, Bloomingdale's, you know, all of these high end stores. And I'm like, I can't afford Saks Fifth Avenue. Maybe I can, but I can't. I did a video of Bal Harbour shops, and go back into my, I think, history. I don't know if it's in history, South Florida, it's a hot spots in South Florida. I did a video of Bal Harbour shops, one of the most high end shopping malls here in South Florida, and it's in a high end area. And I don't know if I said it in the video, and I said, in this mall you need at least 500 to shop in this mall. Every store had a security guard there, and I'm sure the restaurants that are there, you're paying $50+ for a meal. You're not paying $10 for a plate of food and stuff, because that's the thing about them. I remember back in the day when you went to the malls, $5 got you a meal at the mall, or $10 got you a family meal at the mall and stuff like that. You can't even go into a restaurant with $5. Even a dollar menu is not a dollar. The dollar menu, everything that used to be a dollar is now $1.20, $1.29, $1.30. Even a cheeseburger, $1.99. Remember back in the day, a cheeseburger used to be a dollar. Now you got to pay $1.99, and that's a value meal. Remember, Big Mac used to be $2.99 for a combo. Now you paying them $10 for a Big Mac, and I'm like, whew. And it's because it's not the same anymore. We know the cost of living goes up every year, and the cost of food and all of that goes up. Yes, but we're never going to get that feeling back that we did back then when the malls was the hangout spot for kids. You know what the hangout spot is now for kids? They have their own, and it's sad to say, remember back then, families had work desks. A desk where you work at and do stuff like that. Kids, they don't have a work desk. They have a gaming desk. Those little red chairs that you can swing around and stuff. You see them all the time. The little gaming chairs they have. They have them, and they sit at a desk with a computer, and they play online gaming. That's their hangout spot. Nobody says, "Oh, let's go to the mall, to the arcade, and play the video games." Yeah, I got some quarters, let's go. Or I got some credits on my car. Even if you got a car, I got some credits on my car. Let's play. I took my nephew to Arcade Odyssey, before my nephew ended up moving away. And he was, 13, 14 years old. And I took him. And my nephew enjoyed it. A lot of the games in Arcade Odyssey are retro games, but we had this one little game that we was doing, and he was loving it, because I wanted my nephew to experience what I used to experience, and that's what a lot of kids, they don't only get to experience with the things that their parents experience. They only experience what they see now, gaming consoles at home, online gaming. They didn't know the feeling of going to an arcade and playing an arcade game. You know, they didn't know that feeling. And that's what I tried for my nephew because, you know, I don't have any kids and I want my nephew to say, here's an experience that I've used to do back in the day. This is what we used to do back in the day. Go to the arcades and play these games and stuff. So it was an experience. So let me know what you think about this. Comment at the bottom of this page. You can also email me, roundtable305 at yahoo.com. Let me know, do you miss the old days of the malls where, you know, it was a vibe with the kids, or do you like modern day vibes now where it's you sit at home online and you play against people online? So what do you think? Do you like yesterday versus today? Because I liked it back then versus now because it was better. It was better back then. It was better back then. So let me know how you feel about this. I thank you for watching this. As always, stay safe, stay blessed, stay hydrated. Please support your shopping malls and support these arcades. And I will see you in the next episode. This is the Roundtable Talk. Take care.